Welcome to The Defiant. I'm your host, Tegan Klein. Today we have the honor of diving into the mind of a true trailblazer, exploring her insights, experiences, and the lessons she's learned along the way, the visionary behind KryptoSeoul, Erica Kang. Erica has been a bridge between the East and the West for a very long time, and today we get to dive deep into her journey. She grew up in Korea, then moved to the United States and did a stint in Vietnam more recently. She has not only reshaped the blockchain landscape, but she's also championed a new era of community-driven empowerment. Before we dive into all of that, Erica will share a little bit about how she first got involved in the crypto community.
So I started in crypto in 2017 as a community builder, and I've been hosting community focused meetups since 2017 with the name under KryptoSeoul, because I was based in Seoul, Korea at the time. And so for about 5 years, I've been dedicated to hosting a lot of layer one meetups back in the day. So all starting from, Ethereum to Solana to Cosmos, I've been really just hitting the right projects. And so, I thankfully I've been able to have this brand in which I was the kind of the bridge to Korea in that way. And then, having those consistent work kind of amounted to, in terms of size. So I was like, okay, maybe I should host a bigger conference, hackathon, more, exciting things and bigger things. So I started hosting BUIDL Asia conference, ETH Seoul, BUIDL Vietnam, and Hackathon Seoul, hackathons, all those things, since about 2018, 2019. And they really blew off. I mean, they're getting better year by year, and I'm still doing it, really pushing hard. But I've been a community person at heart, and still I'm very neutral, independent. I have a personal brand, and so I've been kind of floating in the space pretty actively since then. So yeah, that's how I started my journey, and have been building my brand.
Amazing. Yes, I love that terminology of just the connector, because I feel like you really are that bridge between the two, but also very much a connector. And I think community in crypto is so important. I think Sandeep says community is the CEO of Web3, and I love that. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. Why are you passionate about community in the crypto space?
Yes. So when I started in crypto back in 2017, I think you remember as well, it was a lot of distrust. I mean, it was unable to kind of weed out who's legit, who's not legit. I mean, it's more subjective, but actually there are a lot of scammers back then, more scammers than ever before, I think. And the ratio was really, really high. So in navigating into space, it was really hard for me to trust in the beginning. And I thought, okay, well, trust is the biggest thing I can give to the community. And when I met these people one by one, I thought, okay, human power, the human trust and, one-on-one interactions is the key to building let alone big size community. It's kind of amounts one by one. And I really felt the passion in that, and getting to know people one by one, founders, right, and contributors in the space. And that's how I really fell in love with the space, because I really found these little gems, solid gems that really shape the space and make it really productive and fruitful. And so, yeah, and that's really the roots of how community builds and how followers build and contributors build. It's not I think it's more a voluntary movement in which, you empower these people and incentivize in the rightful way to as a culture, as a movement, right? And I think we really fall into this rabbit hole because of this story and because of this persuasive power. So in that sense, I think that's why I felt, okay, this is community is what I should work for from the beginning, way beginning. And it could have been a top-down approach in which I could join a bigger organization or something more, top down. But then I felt, okay, to start from scratch, kind of know what's in this space from bottom up. I thought it'd be really nice to learn from the community. And so, and I think really it shapes the industry, and it really does expand it in a way. So yeah, I mean, I truly still believe. Yes, Sandeep's right.
Absolutely. And it's a bottoms up movement, so it only makes sense. Amazing. And you lived in Korea and the US. I know you also did a stint in Vietnam, and I'm interested to kind of understand more of the differences that you see between these different regions. But before then, I would love to kind of understand more about that story from your own personal journey. What was it like kind of growing up in Korea and then moving to the United States?
Yeah. So I was born in Korea. So I'm more of and I was born and raised more in Korea. I think in terms of the years, I would define myself as just Korean, but people say I'm an Americanized Korean whatsoever. But yeah, so I went to the US when I was younger. So like stayed there for 4 years and then came back to Korea and then went back to US for grad school. So I did have a back and forth between US and Korea for some time. And I think back then I was really able to not master, but learn a lot of bilingual characteristics. And so I was able to really define my, bilingual characteristics, abilities, and then cultural interpretation as well. So I really had the privilege to experience both cultures really deeply since I was young. I mean, it might have caused a little bit of, every person goes through identity crisis in which am I a Korean or am I American, right? In heart. But I always felt, okay, I really fell in love with both these cultures. And I really felt like there's a lack of interpretation between both cultures. And of course, language is such a big issue, even now. And so I felt the passion to kind of be the bridge since day one, not in terms of crypto, but like in terms of like language or culture and that sort of things, and politics as well, because I was majoring in political economy back in the day. And then Vietnam was an interesting throw because during my time in crypto, like half during COVID, right, I felt like, okay, well, I spent a lot of time in Korea and US, and I felt like my regional analysis was a little bit biased in a way. I thought I needed more diversity before I get older and before I, get afraid to move, right? So I decided to choose Southeast Asia and particularly Vietnam. Vietnam is definitely a Korea-friendly country. A lot of countries are too, but Vietnam is it was blowing up back then. And so it was very promising. And I really tried it out for a year, and I felt, okay, well, I should go more. And so I lived for 2 years, and I think I did a really nice job in trying to absorb the culture and language in a short period of time. But, I think that gave me a little bit more balance in that sense. So yeah, it's a lot of diversity. Now I'm in Lisbon, so it's more diversity.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. And how do you kind of describe the cultures, maybe looking at it from a crypto lens? How do you explain the cultures between the US, Korea, and Vietnam?
Yeah, it's a really big definition, right? It's a characterization is something that I always try to avoid. But in terms of crypto, culture-wise, the investor culture is quite different. I think the human mind is always the same. That's what I always believe, the human intuition in which we want to invest, we want to earn money, we want to get rich. That's always in our hearts, right? But the way to do that, how do we, achieve that goal? Because Vietnam, for example, is a very growing, exploding economy right now. And it's very promising. It has a lot to go, but still, I think it's definitely promising, so that Korea is more mature economy at this point. So the room for growth is a little bit limiting. But on the other hand, Vietnam is more exciting, and in my perspective. So I think people strive to really get to the top, right? To really learn, to absorb, to have the opportunity. So I think the passion is very intense in Vietnam. And also investing, the pursuit of investment is really big in Korea. As I've experienced in the past, the Koreans love to invest in general. I think particularly in real estate back in the day. So that's why real estate markets in Seoul is just insanely large. How should I say? It's just crazy right now. It's very overpriced. But I think the yearn to really invest and reap benefits, it's innately in the Koreans' mind. So I think when the young generation was looking for something new to invest in besides real estate and stocks, for example, they, turned to crypto as like alternative way, and it's more exciting and innovative way to like really, strive to go to the top, right? And I think that really intrigued a lot of Koreans and also Vietnamese too. So that was, I think that's like kind of the cultural context, I should say, social context as well. US, I think it's more stabilized. So I think in terms of that, it's really it cares a lot about institutions, a lot about like regulation, which it should, and it sets a lot of the global standards in a way. And so I think the responsibility that the U.S. has is just immensely huge in many ways, not only in crypto, but just global economy depends a lot on the U.S., right? And as Korea, like a person who's been mainly in Korea, the dependency rate is like superbly high. It's just immensely high. So like even in crypto, of course, everybody looks in what the US is doing, right? And kind of benchmarks from the US. And so, yeah, in many ways, it is definitely different culture-wise. How should I say? Language is a very big issue even now. And like even when I see a lot of bilingual people, trilingual, right? It still has a gap in terms of information, in terms of this little cultural gap. I don't know what it is, but I think when Koreans speak in general or like approach, for example, in terms of business, it's less straightforward than I guess I should say the US, for example, because the agenda is definitely not out there. It's more like hidden. And for example, I will be smiling if I say, I don't like you. Like, I don't like you. But so it's not very apparent. There's many insinuate like this very like hidden hints. And I think Koreans prefer it that way in terms of expression. It's very hard to say no in general. And so, yeah, manners is a very big thing ingrained in our like lives. So we have to be mannerful, very like, smiling and just, accommodating a lot of the times. So I think a lot of pressure is on the Korean side in many ways when you do business. And we talk like, straightforwardly, because when I was educated in the US, all I heard was, state the main idea in the beginning, be assertive, right? And, you got to speak from your heart, like just get it out there, right? And that was really one of the things that I really focused on back in the day when I was, the transition was very big. So
interesting.
Yeah.
And could it rub some people in Korea the wrong way if you come in too forceful? And have you seen that happen?
Many times. And I think they're like, well, we were just getting warmed up, right? We're just getting ready. But what just happened, right? It's too much. So they kind of back off. That's kind of what usually happens a lot of the times. And I've seen a lot of misinterpretation. A lot of like people get offended or just hurt. And so I try sometimes to meddle in between and say, hey, that's not, what they meant. It's just like their style and how they approach things. So some things do happen for sure, and I've seen many things. But yeah.
Very interesting, and it's good to know. And I know you're hosting an event in Korea soon. So for all the Americans going, we need to be mindful of these things. So that's very helpful. But tell us a little bit about that event that you're hosting.
Yes, so the annual event that I'm hosting in Seoul is BUIDL Asia, Eat Seoul, and this year another edition is Shifi Seoul Summit. Basically I'm planning the entire BUIDL week, I should say, and to kind of incentivize a lot of the builders and founders to come to Korea to see the scene, of course, and also to a lot of Korean barbecue every day with me. But just kind of like have a global bridge, right? And just the fact that it's in Korea, it makes a lot of good narrative and context for people to come to Asia. And I know that this year is definitely the year of Asia, considering many major events will be hosted in Asia, not just in Northeast Asia, but DevCon is in Southeast Asia, right? So I think it will give a really good leeway into the Q3, Q4, in which people want to, test it out and just see how it works in Northeast Asia, for example, and kind of trickle down to Southeast Asia. That was my narrative, I should say, when I was, hosting BUIDL Asia in March. So it's coming up in a couple of weeks. Super excited. We have an amazing lineup of speakers. It's just like, it's getting better year by year. So I'm just very grateful. And Vitalik, Ilya, you, Eva, Munib. I mean, so many good founders are coming. And I'm just like mind blown at the amount of support that I get, because BUIDL Asia is definitely for the builders and also from the community. So it doesn't really come from a big sponsor. It's more like a ground up conference. So, I mean, I cannot plan anything like huge or magnificent, but I think in terms of the narrative and I guess the intent that I tend to give to the community, I think people thought it was sincere enough. So they're trusting me every year to come to Seoul. So I'm super excited. And, in line with BUIDL Asia, there's ETH Seoul, which is the ETH hackathon in Seoul. It's the largest one. It's going to be amazing. We're hosting at a gaming company, which is great. And Shifi Seoul is a new thing I'm trying because I'm the Seoul chapter lead, and we're hosting at a women's university, which I graduated from. So that's super exciting as well.
Amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Amazing. And
Yes.
can you talk to us a little bit about the different project landscape in Korea? What projects there are you most excited about?
Yeah, for sure. And there's been a ton of validators in the scene. I think a lot of the Cosmos validators are based in Korea as well. Like, because I was starting from the Cosmos Korea perspective, I was seeing from that lens. I mean, Kepler with a wallet, and then Osmosis. The main team is based in Korea, and Dojmos is a very good friend of mine. And also DSRV is, a good infrastructure provider, and like they've been really partnering with a lot of amazing protocols out there, providing support for them. So, I mean, I'm really happy to support them as always. And Jiyoon, who's the founder, he will be a judge at ETH Seoul. So that should be exciting as well. Radius is a ZK project that I'm, good friends with and supportive about, and they've been kind of garnering the ZK narrative in South Korea. So I'm very excited to, because I'm all about, tech and like the, privacy. And so it's great that they're pushing that narrative, because it's a really hard narrative to push in Korea, honestly. And like people in general don't really care as much about privacy as in different regions, which is kind of interesting. But I think it's really important that they do this. I really support them. Jihoon is also speaking, who's the founder. He's speaking at BUIDL Asia. But trying to really see a lot of infrastructure companies and also like protocol building companies from my lens. Of course, there are many gaming companies in Korea that have their own blockchain teams and that are building on like Aptos or like just Avalanche. Nexon is building on Avalanche, and Polygon. There are many Korean teams in gaming that are building on global protocols. So that's exciting as well. So I think in terms of Korean, I guess, characteristics, I think, I guess this nature, like innately, gaming is a very big, expectation is very high on the gaming companies because of the cultural power. I mean, the gaming power that a lot of the Korean companies have, right? So that's very interesting to see. And they're like presenting out now, like to the public, which is a very big step forward, because usually before they didn't really get to do that to the Korean public. So they were a little shy, but now they're out there. They're announcing their what they've been building over the years. So that's really exciting to see. Yeah, so like a lot of diverse players in Korea for sure. I mean, of course, exchanges are huge. I don't need to even stress the fact that exchanges are huge. Upbit, Bithumb, Coin1, and they're doing amazing. Actually, a bunch of Bithumb crew, they booked BUIDL Asia tickets. They're like, so I asked like, why? What's the intention there? Like, what are you trying to get out of it? And they're like, we want to learn. Like, we want to learn one of the greatest projects out there. Hear from themselves, the founders themselves, like how how they're shaping the project. And so it was more about research and learning from their end, which I always care about. And I'm like, it's all about learning and research. And from their end, they can get a more like a a clearer view and a more, a good lens on like what are good projects out there. So yeah, I'm really excited to invite all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's so much that the exchanges can do just in terms of educating about these different tokens communities and the utility behind the token and things like that. So I'm always excited to see that when the exchanges offer those earn programs.
Ready to dive into the world of on-chain derivatives? Sin Futures is your decentralized portal to trading futures and perps with up to 100x leverage. Now live on Blast mainnet, Sin Futures V3 combines limit orders and concentrated liquidity into a single unified liquidity model dubbed Oyster AMM, offering unparalleled capital efficiency. Earn triple airdrop rewards through an incentive program designed around Blast and Sin Future points. And join the new Trading Grand Prix competition to win a piece of the $500,000 prize pool. Visit synfutures.com, that's SYN futures.com, to start your decentralized trading journey today.
We used to hear a lot about the Kimchi Premium back in 2017, 2018. What are your thoughts on that? What's the reason for it if it persists today?
Kimchi Premium. I don't know if it's a good connotation or a negative. I mean, for some, it's a good thing for sure, and it pumps up the market in many ways, and it's kind of like interesting where. I mean, the market's open at they're awake at different times. For example, like the Korean wakes up, in one time and then the US wakes up. But like somehow this random like coin just pumps up out of nowhere in South Korea. Everyone doesn't know why. Like, why is it actually? And it's a different, I think, animal in that sense. I think it just like works differently. The Korean community, investor community, they just like, I don't know, the trigger's different, I think, for like relative to other markets in many ways. So it works in a different mechanism. Like they work with different set of information. That's why I also was concerned about like information asymmetry, because a lot of the work and development by the global projects are not being delivered as fairly, as transparently or importantly to the Korean community or even like the Asian community in large. So as a result, the projects that are popular, that are, how should I say, more in trend are very different from the projects that are actually respected by the global community in many ways. So that's where I feel a lot of concern. That's where the language also kicks in, the cultural thing kicks in, like everything, like many factors that kind of may accelerate that. And so, yeah.
The different applications, the different access to the internet, there's so many things that are very different. But yeah, how do we get more of an information flow aside from people like you helping us with that? But how do we kind of do more information flow from the East to the West?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like that's always a mission that like I feel passionate about and also feel lost about. Like so that's why I'm hosting these big events, is at least give opportunity to say, hey, this is a really good put together, good quality event, and like the speakers here are just like much above par. Like they're just, and it's a good filter and also good curation, right? And so it'll give a good opportunity for Koreans to actually like be exposed to these amazing projects and promising projects. And so like that's one, thing that I can do on from my level. And I just think like a lot of the media or like global media, like Defiant, for example, maybe have an Asian channel. I don't know, something more like Asia friendly in different languages. I know there's many efforts in trying that, but having a correspondent or something like ambassador or kind of expanding, like Shifa is also expanding to Asia because of this matter, just kind of like bringing the information experience that they get to Asia. And I know it doesn't work 100%, but it is definitely a generous effort. And I think it's, some companies are just purely US focused. Or like Europe focused. And even now, I don't think Asia is considered as the like crucial market, I should say. Like people, like the level of importance has just gotten a little bit higher. I think people acknowledge Asia as a powerhouse, but like in terms of practice, is it really being implemented, right? And so I think maybe after DEF CON, people will see, it is really super important.
So more time, and these different areas in Asia. Absolutely. Yeah. And what would you say is trending right now, kind of in Korea or Vietnam? In the US, it's very much modularity, restaking, AI. Those are some of the topics that are trending. Do you think that flows over, or are other topics trending?
Definitely AI is trending. Definitely. I mean, AI has been just like blowing up in Korea as well. And I think crypto and AI has been a very attractive narrative. People, even from the AI space in Korea, also trickle down to see what's happening in crypto because of this, which is a good thing because like they can come together, exchange ideas. And so there was an explosive number of AI events in South Korea recently in the past year. And I think like crypto has slowly had a part in that, so which is great. Of course, like always, DeFi, I think DeFi wasn't a huge trend in Korea back then when there was a DeFi summer. But I think it's creeping back. And the meme season, right? The meme coin season, as everyone is either happy or critical about it, but still it is a trend, right? And people say, you know, they jokingly say the dogs and the cats, and like they do know about these things too. And I think it creates a little bit of fun, which Koreans do like. And that's a pretty big thing that people are focusing on. And of course, regulations. I mean, it's not fun, but you know, since Bitcoin hit, because in Korean, in US dollars, Bitcoin is not like a significant number. The price did go up, but it doesn't like ring a bell. But Korean, if you translate into Korean won, it actually hit, in Korean, it's how do you say? How do you interpret this? 10 million won? Yeah, 10 million Korean won. Anyway, it's like when you hit like one, like something, 1 million, it's like rings a bell, right? So Koreans have been yearning for this moment for such a long time. So that number just the past week has been crazy. So Koreans are like, let's see, my predictions were right, that kind of thing. So that's just the ringing a big bell. And at the same time, concerns about taxation, what's going to happen to more listings. Those things are always on the surface. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with that, there's been a lot of movement away from the dollar into Bitcoin as kind of this digital gold, store of value, reserve currency, that kind of thesis for Bitcoin. Do you think that there's a similar kind of understanding or maybe passion in Korea as well for Bitcoin as the store of value?
Bitcoin is definitely respected, even from like Bank of Korea or just, in terms of financial institutions, they do acknowledge the value of the Bitcoin. Of course, it's like the anchor, in which like this whole ecosystem revolves. I think that's what the institutions are agreeing on. But at the same time, I think when it comes to like having this store of value and like the currency, I should say, I think they don't consider Bitcoin as the currency. It's more like the store of value, right? As you said, but like they're considering to run their own, like, for example, stable coin, for example, and just kind of gear it towards like KRW, Korean won, and have their own currency. That's what they usually care about. It's different from acknowledgement, but execution is different. So I think, it's a little ironic, but it's how governments want to take control of their own right and systems, and so it's a little.
That's why
ironic.
We need Bitcoin. Yes, absolutely. And what about kind of on the other side? That's the monetary policy side, but what about on kind of the Web3 decentralized internet? Do you think that there's passion there?
I think there's a passion in decentralized socials as well. Like internet wise, as I said, like Koreans care a little bit less about, generally privacy. Privacy hasn't been a humongous issue in South Korea. It hasn't really hit the Koreans at heart. I think sharing your personal information hasn't been a offensive thing, more so than what hits, like, for example, Americans, for example, they're like very defensive about it in general. But I think Koreans are like, it's fine. It's kind of like a little bit more chill, I should say, a little bit nonchalant. And so in that regard, like decentralized internet hasn't been, as long as it's fast, people are like, well, like speed is the most important thing. Speed, efficiency, I think Koreans really care about how fast it is, how easy it is. that's like everything is geared towards that. So very impatient people, like fast, like easy, just like get it done. Like it doesn't matter how, but just like it. So I think that is a really big characteristic that Koreans do care about. And so, I mean, of course, if there is a good solution, of course, I think it will be Koreans would love that, and socials as well. Yeah, because like all the socials are not like centralized socials are not really doing their part these days, right? They're really crumbling, and I think Koreans are very disappointed as well. Like, what is the next wave? Like, where is it coming from, right? And that's why, yeah, there's a lot of interest in that as well.
Absolutely. Amazing. And then to get a little bit more spicy, Terra Luna was one of the maybe more successful projects out of Korea. How has that implosion impacted the crypto community in Korea from your perspective? And I'm sure you're kind of rebuilding some of that momentum.
Yes, absolutely. And back then, it was such a, I mean, I was in Korea at the time, and it was such a miserable time for all of us. Like, I think, I remember talking to a lot of the industry people and non-industry people as well, but everyone was like near tears, I think, at the time. Even if you are not affected nor affected, I think just the like despair that a lot of people felt. Like, we tried so hard to build a healthy ecosystem, and then this one incident just like just dilutes the entire image of our industry, what we work for. And I mean, we always are treated as scammers anyway, but it was getting better. It was getting better, and then I mean, we've been working so hard for many years, and then this happens, right? And that's why, like, I mean, I was not affected probably financially, but I think in terms of just the entire image wise, and I'm as an kind of an ambassador, I should say, like a bridge, like it's just really disheartened me. And as a person running events, it's just, yeah, it was such a negative, sad moment. And I think since then it's been so hard to recover any of that. Yeah, and I think a lot of projects are trying to revive from that even now, and they're trying to like slowly get back on track. So I see many like ex-Terra like team members or just people who are involved. Like there's so many, trying to get back on their feet and trying to start a new project. Yeah, and like take the courage to do it again. It's promising to see that they're really trying to like get on their feet, trying like to contribute again in a more mindful way. But I think, yeah, it's been and like, so funny story. And when you come to Korea, you'll see, but there's a very famous beer brand called Terra in Korea.
After Terra Luna?
No, it was just there. It was there from, it's a new brand, but still it was very popular even before, Terra was the thing. And same spelling, same, so, and when that happened, everyone, like had this shot of Luna, like the Terra, beer, and just kind of, it's a more of a haha moment, but just, bitter moment, but at the same time, like, hey,
Totally.
Yeah, so that was very awkward, and it was kind of cringy, but at the same time, but it's still there though, so you can check it out.
Well, hopefully, it makes everyone stronger, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that, and it shouldn't reflect the entire industry, but definitely something for us to learn from. And tell us a little bit about the community you've built with KryptoSeoul. You've kind of touched on it, but I would love to kind of dig in a little bit more.
Sure. So in the previous years, I've been anchoring a lot towards Korea and hosting events in Korea back at the time. So for about 4 years or so, I've been just straight handling all the like layer one meetups back in the day. So that was how I built my brand. And I collaborate with a lot of different protocols, competing protocols, I should say. But, I was very privileged to do so, because it's very hard to maintain that color, to maintain the neutrality, even now, because they say, oh, you're partnering with, like Polygon, but why are you not doing with us? Are you that person now? Are you in that clan now? It's kind of like that, right? So I get that. I got this question so many times, but it took a lot of effort to prove that, no, I'm actually really, being at this neutral, agnostic, and it really took a lot of references and examples, right, to prove that. And I think now I'm at a point where I'm pretty stable. In terms of region, since I moved to Vietnam, I got to think a lot about regional expansion. And since that's why I hosted BUIDL Vietnam, because I felt, okay, BUIDL Asia doesn't mean just Korea. Asia doesn't mean just Korea, right? I can definitely host in many different Asian countries. And so that's why I'm in the region anyway, so why not just try to hosting events in Vietnam? So I try to take the leap forward in expanding the KryptoSeoul brand. And so that's why I started doing Crypto Vietnam and kind of adding the region one by one. And also hosting a lot of side events, builder breakfasts around the world, in Paris, mostly in US, Europe. But I really try to diversify the regional diversity, right? And so now, actually, this last year, I found I expanded to Crypto Planet. So I'm okay, maybe Seoul is a little limiting now. So I feel like I've been more global lately, and I think it's about time to expand to Crypto Planet. So yeah, that's my new brand now.
Oh, congrats. Amazing.
Thank you. And I think I already host so many events around the world anyway, and I think it wasn't a big surprise to a lot of people. And just last weekend I hosted an event at Stanford University and about crypto and AI, and I think that was an enormous moment. And I think it really proved that I can definitely pull off amazing events outside of Seoul and where my comfort zone lands, right? So yeah, it's a very exciting moment. It's a very transitional moment for me, and how to expand the community, how to solidify it at the same time. It's a very big mission this year, and really hope to make it right. So yeah, onwards.
Amazing. Well, that's super exciting, and I love that. And crypto is such a global movement as well, and amazing. So, what's the best way for listeners to kind of dive into the Korean community and kind of stay in touch with what's happening there, the different projects, developers? Is it, conferences, Twitter? What's the best way?
Honestly, Koreans have not been the most friendly in Twitter, which was I remember maybe 3 years ago or even before that, we've been screaming to Koreans, please use Twitter, please, everything's happening there. You're missing out so much. That's why. So I remember when I was doing live streams, I was crying that out loud. And so now it's getting better for sure. So I'm really happy to see that there are a lot of prominent Koreans delivering good information about local projects, but also what's happening in Korea. So that's great to see, but still a long way to go. So I think just honestly being on the ground really does help. It's so much different when you hear it from an indirect third party like me, for example, and also when you come to Korea and really just be on the ground. It does make a big difference. And spend a week here. It does feel different. You can feel the temperature. You can feel how people are thinking. It's kind of one-on-one interviews, right? You can kind of set these intense one-on-one interviews with diverse Korean projects or players and kind of have their take on it. And being there does, I don't know. I'm a believer in offline experiences. And so if there's a big conference or not even a conference, but if there's anything that's happening or around the region, it's definitely worth dropping by. And I think that's when a lot of projects had an aha moment, actually. And since then they've been kind of coming regularly because they also do agree that it is worthwhile investing their time and energy in coming into the region. So yeah,
absolutely. And you mentioned earlier in the podcast that there are a lot of events happening in Asia. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of those other events that are happening?
Absolutely. Yeah. As an events person, it's already in the line. So actually right before ETH Seoul and BUIDL Asia, there's ETH Taipei happening the weekend before. So that's really amazing. So I'm really close to the ETH Taipei folks, and the community there is amazing. So it's definitely worth to check out. Just after my events in Seoul, there's a Web3 Hong Kong festival happening in Hong Kong, run by Hashkey, Wan Xiang, and they're amazing too. They're having this whole week of events as well. So like I think Q1 is settled for that, Hong Kong, and then there's Dubai, but that's coming to the more non-Asia territory. I mean, yeah, it's and then let's not touch Dubai yet. And then in July there's EdCon happening in Tokyo, which is amazing. I talked to the organizers, and they're super excited to host EdCon there. So yeah, that should be really big. And then of course you cannot, miss out September, in which there's Lana Breakpoint in Eat Singapore in Singapore. And of course Token is like inevitably huge. And so that whole week will be crazy in Singapore in September. And also there's Korea Blockchain Week the weekend, I think week before. So that's like the whole September is going to be just as usual blowing off. And then of course the DEF CON, like it's going to be so big that I can't even fathom how massive it's going to be, right? I'm just a little bit scared at the same time. I mean, excited. So I think since maybe late October, there should be a lot of events popping up in neighboring countries and besides Bangkok, Thailand. Because like, for example, I want to do an event in Vietnam before a DEF CON hits, for example. And I think when you're in the region, every Asian country is different. So it is worthwhile like dropping by. They're only 1 hour apart by flight. So it's actually pretty doable. So within Southeast Asian region. So yeah, it's that whole November, October, also crazy. So I think in general, the entire year is just gonna blow off. And so yeah, it's a big year for Asia, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. The Ethereum community is going to descent on Bangkok, Thailand. So get ready for us.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
I can't wait for Thailand. Yes.
Yes, it's going to be great. Amazing. And then last question is just, how are you defiant?
First of all, I try to define what's defiant. As a woman navigating this space, independent as well, having an independent brand like you, for example, it's so hard. It's just so hard to go against the norm, the expected norm, and you know what I mean. It's been really hard to position myself, taken seriously in this space, and fighting the social expectations that I get all the time as a mother, as a woman, especially in Korea. I come from a very conservative background, so it does have a very big toll and set of responsibilities for me. So it's been really, I think, going against that, just say, hey, I'm in crypto. Like, what? What are you doing? So I think that itself, being a very active woman in crypto is since 2017, has been just that whole life has been defiant, fighting the norms, the expectations, and kind of going my own way, plowing my own path. I think that's what I really love about this space as well, and my career. Pioneering into what people haven't done before. That's always so exciting. And also kind of it's kind of going against everything, right? Going through the weeds and kind of, and that's been a thrill, actually. It's difficult, but I think it's definitely worth the fight. And so in many ways, yeah, I think that defines.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we need more women out there listening. Don't be intimidated by the industry being male dominated. We need more of you, and hopefully soon crypto will be less unpopular. I think soon it's already starting, right? The masses are coming.
Yes, for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on The Defiant. It was so great having you.
Thank you so much, Tegan. Thank you.